everybody, it's your friendly digital technology librarian, Christy here. We've reached another Friday, so of course I have another Film Rec Friday ready for everybody out there. Now, this week is officially afternoon tea week, and I thought it might be nice to celebrate what is clearly such a quintessential British practice with a quick selection of films featuring other equally iconic British elements. As always, these films are available entirely for free with the use of your Milan-Berlin library card, and they can be found on one of our video services, which are CleveNet's Overdrive, Hoopla Digital, and Canopy. So without any further ado, let's get into the recs. Okay, kicking things off with a selection from Hoopla Digital, and that is 2020's Agatha and the Truth of Murder. This was an awesome movie. I was not at all familiar with it, but I had such a good time. It's actually my pick of the week, so I'll say that right up front. And Agatha and the Truth of Murder is a alternative history, and I absolutely love those. I love stories that sort of take periods of actual history and sort of spin them and give them a little what if twist. And you've seen these all over the place, whether you're talking about the Marvel What If animated series or any number of pieces of fiction throughout history. There's just been a ton of them, and they're always really, really interesting, and this is no different. So in Agatha and the Truth of Murder, we're actually following Agatha Christie during a very specific period of time in 1926, when in real life she disappeared for 11 days. No one knows exactly what happened during those 11 days. When she was finally found, again, in real life, she claimed to have lost her memory. She just didn't know what happened. She just was driving, and then suddenly she was at a certain place. And this entire film sort of supposes, what if that isn't the case at all, which it'd be interesting to be in a fugue state for over a week. So this particular film plays on that idea, and it gives you the answer to what really happened. Really. And I really, really loved it. It was really, really entertaining. So in Truth of Murder, we're saying, rather than just having randomly disappeared and entered into some sort of fugue state, Christie actually was called upon to solve a real life murder mystery. And you see elements from all of her later stories peppered throughout this particular film. In 26, I think she'd written about 3 novels, and she'd introduced Poirot to the public, but a lot of the big stories had not been written yet. And you see elements of that all throughout here, like things that happened later in her writing career. You get bits and pieces of thematic tropes that she calls on later, like the whole isolated suspect pool kind of situation. And I just thought it was really fun to pick out those bits and pieces. So if you're an Agatha Christie fan, that's definitely something you might enjoy in this. The other thing that was really interesting is that not only are we pulling from that what if of Agatha Christie's disappearance, but we're also attempting to solve the murder of Florence Nightingale Shore, who was Florence Nightingale's goddaughter. Shore was murdered as well, and we never really found out the solution to that crime, and so Christie's actually being called upon to solve that case, and she ends up going to this manor house where she gets that isolated suspect pool, and they're trying to whittle down who it could be, and you get glimpses of "and then there were none." You get glimpses of Death on the Nile. I mean, like, there's a lot of little tidbits that you'll see peppered throughout this film. And yes, it's definitely a shout out to every Agatha Christie fan ever, but in general, it's just a really interesting murder mystery, and it's really well acted. That's the other thing. It's peppered with people you might find familiar. faces you'll definitely recognize from other series, whether we're talking about Primeval, Humans, Game of Thrones, tons of very familiar faces. But the acting is just so well done, whether we're talking about the woman who plays Agatha Christie, or you're talking about one of the very lightly touched upon suspects. It's just a really great ensemble piece with phenomenal acting from the core group. Um, I really, really loved, again, the way they pulled the two real life elements and sort of spun them around for people to play with in their imaginations. And it's one of those things where, you know, they could have done a lot of different bits and pieces with those stories, but what they whittled it down to really, really works. You get this tension, you get this real whodunit feel that translates well to all of her future work. So if you are an Agatha Christie fan, watch it. If you are a murder mystery fan in general, watch it. If you're just really interested in ensemble pieces, this is definitely one to check out. It actually, when it aired in the UK, became one of the top viewed pieces of television of the entire year. I think it was the second best rated uh, television programming of the year, and it came at the very tail end of the year at that. So it was hugely popular, but I don't know how many people outside of the UK ended up seeing it. Like I said, I had not even heard about this film having been made, so definitely give it a chance. I think it's really entertaining, and I think a lot of people, whether you are an Agatha Christie fan, murder mystery fan, ensemble work fan, or just a good movie fan, will really enjoy it. All right, next pick, also available on Hoopla Digital, is 2005's Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen miniseries. Now, there are tons and tons of biopics all about Queen Elizabeth I. She is an absolutely fascinating figure in history. Of course, you've got tons of different takes on what really was going on in her life because she led such a dramatic situation. I mean, she was a woman in power in a time of huge political upheaval, and there's always room for interpretation for what happened and what was going on behind the scenes. So even if you've watched a ton of other Elizabeth I biopics, documentaries, miniseries, I 100% think you should check out Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen, because it is phenomenally well acted. I mean, more than anything else, I would say the acting in this is just so compelling. So, Elizabeth I is played by Anne Marie Duff, who's been in tons of different things. I think probably the most well recognizable role she's played for us here in the States would be her role as the main character in the British version of Shameless. But she's also been in like the Magdalene Sisters and tons of other films and British TV series. You see her go from a very young Elizabeth I all the way through until her death. The makeup in this is really, really excellent as far as a believable aging goes, because her reign as queen did span for so long. And there's just something about her physicality in this role where you get that youthful sort of exuberance, and then as time goes by and all of these different things that happen wear upon her more and more and more. Like, it's not just the makeup that ages her, but everything about her physical being, like, it works so well, and you can tell that she's like really putting in the effort to embody the character. You have a very young Thomas Hardy playing Robert Dudley. Uh, he's often a very romanticized figure in her history, and this particular miniseries does not change that take on things. Uh, I will say it's a really interesting relationship that the two of them build, and the chemistry that they have between them is really, really fantastic. Um, they've done some really interesting things with events surrounding the Elizabeth Robert Dudley relationship that I definitely, well, I didn't side eye. I definitely was like, that's different. And I did find that really interesting, if nothing else. Um, you have other really phenomenally well played roles that, both villains and allies, and you feel every single one of Elizabeth's triumphs and Elizabeth's failures. You absolutely get caught into her story. Now, Hoopla has this set up as a two-part miniseries. I believe in when it actually aired, it was 4 parts, but 2 parts. What's great about this particular checkout is that it's part of Hoopla's bonus borrows collection for August. So if you decide to check this out, which again I strongly recommend, it does not count against your 10 checkouts of the month. All of the bonus borrows are just free plays. You can watch them as many times as you want, as often as you want, and it does not count against those 10 checkups that you're allotted every single month. And with a mini series, especially, that's always really nice because usually every episode is a checkout. So, if for no other reason, check it out because you totally can. It's no harm, no foul. Um, this particular role garnered Anne Marie Duff tons of accolades and critical acclaim. She won a huge number of awards, I believe, as did many other people within the cast. You will definitely recognize a lot of faces from other different British series, but also tons of mainstream films as well. So if you kind of like that element of, oh, I know that person, this one's a really good one for that. Uh, as mentioned, it is just another take on Elizabeth's life. If you are an Elizabeth the First fan, 100% watch this. I don't think I'd ever actually seen this one before I started prepping for this week, and I'm really, really glad that I did. It was it definitely gives it a different vibe than, say, to the Kate Blanchett movies or any of the other miniseries that they've done over the years. Um, you definitely feel, I think, a more growth from Elizabeth throughout this miniseries. You really do get to feel how life affects her, how all of the different things that happen change her. She's not immediately Elizabeth from the beginning to the end. It definitely I like the organic growth of the character. So if you're interested in the British monarchy, if you like Elizabeth the First, if you just really like period pieces, gosh, there's so much costuming in this alone is amazing. If you like any of those elements, if you like history in general, definitely check out this mini series. Um, it is 4 episodes worth of entertainment, but it goes really, really quickly. So I strongly recommend you check it out. Okay, our final pick of this week is available on Canopy, and that is 2018's documentary Tea with the Dames, also known as Nothing Like a Dame. This documentary, man, everybody should watch it. It's just so unbelievably fun. I mean, it really, really is. These women who are featured within this particular film are 4 of the most iconic British actresses out there. They've been in the industry, whether we're talking about stage, film, or television, for decades. I mean, decades. And they've played some of the biggest characters out there. I mean, they've played every major female Shakespearean role, amongst them, some of them multiples. They are in mainstream British film, they're mainstream global film. It doesn't matter what side of the pond you're from, you know these people. Um, and Tea with the Dame is just a documentary that essentially has a little tea party for 4 actresses: Eileen Atkins, Judi Dench, Joan Plowright, and Maggie Smith. And good grief, is this like a fun couple of hours just to spend with these ladies. Um, they're of an age where, I think the stereotype is they're all like sweet, um, charming little old ladies who would like nothing better than to chat about their grandchildren, and like they're nothing like that. It's absolutely against that particular stereotype, and they're so much fun to watch. They're definitely profanity laden little diatribes that they give to one another. They rib one another because they've known each other for, again, decades. They've all worked together. They've done Shakespeare together. They have done movies together, and it's just a really, really interesting little slice of their lives. We get to hear about former spouses who are also in the industry. We get to hear about how they have navigated the aging process within what is an industry that is generally much more youth oriented as far as actors go. We get to hear, little snippets of gossip about different former acting partners, and it's just a really great slice of life. It's like sitting down next to someone and just hearing really interesting stories over and over and over again. And again, the fact that these four women go so against type is just, it's just really marvelous to watch. If you are a fan of British cinema, if you are a fan of acting in general, if you have ever watched any of these women in particular roles, like Maggie Smith, iconic actress, probably best known to younger audiences as Professor McGonagall in the Harry Potter films. You've got Judi Dench, who's played Elizabeth I a million times. She's played every Shakespearean character out there. But a lot of Western audiences will know her as M in the more recent James Bond films. You being able to hear them talk about life, being able to hear them talk about what it's like to be an actress, especially an actress who is older, it's just absolutely fascinating. So if you are interested in any of those elements, or are just interested in the entertainment industry in general, definitely check out Tea with the Dames. It's really well put together. It's definitely a love letter to these four women, and it's just a really fun way to spend an afternoon. Okay, so that is it for this week. If you have any recommendations for iconic British themed films, please comment with those below. If you have any recommendations for future themes that you'd like to see us cover, definitely comment and help me out with that. I'm always looking for ideas as far as what to cover in future episodes. Thank you, as always, for checking in and watching this episode. I always have such a good time putting these lists together. Being able to do deep dives in our catalog is a lot of fun, and it also gives me the chance to see just how broad our collection is growing. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Hopefully, I will see you again next week. Bye-bye.